Okay, the DRG is the master controller, so to speak. But there are also, as we know, chemoreceptors in other parts of the body. We learned in the autonomic nervous system, we have some in the aortic body, you have some in the carotid body, right? So right where the carotids divide, and then right at the top of the aortic arch. And as we talked about in the autonomic nervous system chapter, these chemoreceptors send signals to the brain via the vagus nerves. Okay, so the lower, they respond to oxygen and PCO2. Okay, and somewhat to pH, but we'll talk about the first two most. Okay, oxygen first. So as here is oxygen concentration of the arterial blood. Okay, here is the impulses per second from these chemoreceptors. We see that as oxygen concentration drops, impulses per second increase. Okay, so it's a meter, it's a signal. When oxygen concentration is low, these nerves tick faster. Okay, so that will stimulate the vasomotor center, stimulate the respiratory control centers to breathe faster. Okay, now an increase in PCO2 or a decrease in pH also causes an increase in carotid body nerve impulses per second, so tick rate, so to speak. Now the signals related to pH and PCO2 cause a faster change in respiratory drive than the direct effects that we looked at the DRG. Okay, so the brainstem directly responds to pH. That pH is affected by PCO2. All right? It's like our backup system. It's there all the time, but ideally we want to respond smarter than that. And that's what these guys are for. The chemoreceptors are going to detect these changes in PCO2, pH, and PO2 much faster and relay that information much faster into more effective parts of the brain. So this is really the system that's setting us up for changes related to exercise or changes related to normal changes in activity, right? Not disease states, but normal changes in activity are going to be detected by this system first, all right? So they're fast responses that make fast signals. So this is how our body is going to, sort of target the right respiratory rate for our current level of activity. So the system is most active between 0 and 100. For PO2, remember in room air, normal human being, our PO2 is 100-ish, right? How do we get higher than that? Well, in nature, you can't, right? Because it's not like we can go somewhere where there's more oxygen, right? We can go somewhere where there's less oxygen, we can climb a mountain, right? But it doesn't work the other way around. Like, we can't go down in a cave and get more oxygen. It doesn't work like that, right? So there's sort of no reason for the body to have a response greater than 100 because evolutionarily, this is make-believe. Like, there's no way to have that. Now, enter the modern world there is, right? Because I can put a 10-liter non-rebreather on you, and I can make your PO2 300. But your body doesn't care. Like, there's no, this is unknown, so that doesn't affect anything. That is one of the reasons why you can give somebody way too much oxygen, and it doesn't affect them very much, at least in short periods of time. Because our respiratory system just ignores the too high, right? And another point where I'll say, do remember that oxygen is a medicine, right? When you, and we don't have time to do all this stuff with you guys, but like the process of making 100% oxygen is actually quite challenging, right? So in other words, you're taking something natural and making something unnatural from it. So don't think of oxygen as natural. 19 to 20% oxygen is perfectly natural, but that's not what you get out of the wall at the hospital, right? You get 100% oxygen, which isn't natural at all,